Alright, today we got Vid versus Turdz, so we'll get a strange player versus a good player, to put it as harshly as I possibly can. Um, Turdz has played, of course, very well recently, and Vid always manages to make something strange happen. So this should be a fun game. Incidentally, Vid's strangeness tends to work out pretty damn well for him, but it is always curious to see. So there's no same wall. Like you immediately look at Turd's hand and you're like 449A and 9A42. Man, did he draw the nuts? It's not quite the nuts here. These cards don't combine quite as well without same wall for very obvious reasons. Now, if I'm Vid, first thing I'm doing is checking Turd's hand. I notice an A in three directions and a 9 in the other direction. There's pretty continuous strength in each direction, right? There's two nines facing down. There's an A, two A's and a 9 facing up. There's an A and a 9 facing to the left. So then a huge drop off. So even like your 4, your 5-4 A7, that 4 can only be captured two ways. That's very interesting. Do you have any play on the backside of the 6 or the 4? There's play on the backside of the 4 with 3A49. So you could imagine putting something like 7-7-4-9 and 1. Very hopeful there's no same wall because Eden cannot lock it in. But also, the only capture that can't be comboed from 2 is 3-6-9-9. There might be some ideas there. Could be ideas. Okay, is there anything I didn't check right? A8-6-5-4. Okay. And then looking at Vid's hand, there's A's in three directions and a real problem going up, so maybe you don't start in one. Now, how big is that problem in actuality? Pretty big. Without same wall, you basically can't take anything sevens or higher, and Turdz has a 7 and two nines facing down. So that's going to be tricky. I think this is a tough opening hand for Vid. I would probably be fairly upset if I was him. 7-7-4-9 and 4-7-7-9 have some potential to play off each other, though it's kind of harder to line up than you'd think. Because it has to be exactly the middle row that one of them is played in for the other to play off it. I don't like this at all. I would try to hold on to 5-4-A7. It's a pretty unique card in the hand. It also means 3-6-9-9 has coverage, because 3-A-4-9 could take that from 2, but that gets comboed back, so it's nice to have a unique coverage. I think I would keep 3-A-4-9 as well. That's really unique in the hand. I think you got to use one of the double sevens facing up as the starter, or at least I would be strongly drawn that way. But this is going to be really uncomfortable. 5-4-A7 also covers Eden. That's really important. I would probably stick one of them in 7. Which is a tough move because 5-4-A7 is your only recapture in 4, so if they have any play against that, you're going to be really displeased. But, alright, he goes in 4. This does put the 7 facing up in the middle row, which has some benefits. I did briefly consider 4, though I didn't say it. I didn't have a strong take on it. 3-A-4-9 is, of course, not safe if it lands in 7. So the recapture is probably 4-7-7-9 in both squares, which is a little clunky, but also you can see Vid is very much trying to take advantage of Turdz's awkwardness going left. I'm not sure this was the best move, but it is a move that has reasoning behind it, and I think this was a difficult position to play a move that had any kind of actual import on the game. So, relatively speaking, I think this is a good starter. But the position is immediately difficult, and Turdz has a number of options. The most straightforward is probably Alexander in 7, though Alexander in 1 is probably quite similar. But there should be quite a few options. I guess you don't have a big corner to put really anywhere else. You could play A8-6-2 in 7 if you were feeling spicy, because while that can be captured 3 different ways, all of the captures are covered by 3-6-9-9, so you only have to keep hold of one card to cover the captures. And the nice upside of this move is if you start with Alexander in 7 and then later play A8, 6, 2, and 8, if that's taken, you don't have the combo back because there's no card to the right of 9, right? There's no 10 square for you to play back. But if you start with A8, 6, 2, they can't go 8, and then you can land Alexander in 8, and suddenly that's harder for the opponent to deal with. Now, sadly, for Turdz, it does set up a plus in 5 for 4, 7, 7, 9, so there is a way to capture, but you again will have ways to take back. 3, 6, 9, 9 can flip back in 9. It can also combo back in 6 should that prove better, though the capture in 9 is better. So I kind of like starting with A8, 6, 2, and 7 rather than Alexander. Especially if Turdz was going to play, Vid was going to play 4, 7, 7, 9, and 1, that gets 4, 7, 7, 9 out of the hand. And then 9A, 4, 2 is almost safe in 8, right? 5, 8, 5, 4, A7 does have the capture. But you have multiple plus walls against that with Eden, right? You have tons of play against that card. So I kind of like A8, 6, 2, and 7 last turn. Turdz went for a more straightforward, I'm going to occupy 1 or 7 safely, and that's reasonable. But once I started looking at A8, 6, 2 as an alternative, my first instinct was, no, just play Alexander. Alexander is not actually a great card to keep in your hand. But Alexander landing in 8 is great. And so that's quite pleasant. Okay, but I'm sure this move is just as good. I just, get enamored with a move, and then it's so easy to do. Like, you start looking at a move and you decide it's interesting, and then when a move is played, you don't have the same kind of enthusiasm to figure out the little touches to it. But I think A8, 6, 2, and 7 was an interesting idea, and I'm sure this is a very good one as well. It's hard for Vid to play in 7 for obvious reasons. And note that Turdz sequence this such that if Vid plays in 7, Turdz can take in 8. Vid has no play against a 4 facing right from 8. He did have play against a 4 facing right from 2, which is presumably why Turdz started in 1 rather than 7. If he goes 7 and Vid goes 1, his capture's in 2, and suddenly Eden is not as useful as a capturing card. You may also notice, and I didn't notice till now, but this was very clever from Vid, is that Eden was covered in 2, but so was 3699, because 54A7 or 7749 has play against that in 5. So, if Vid was to attack in 2, and also 54A7 and 7749 also cover 449A in 5, so actually, yeah, that's just fully covered really well. So Vid was saying if you go 7 and I go 1, you're actually going to have a difficult time capturing in 2. You might still have 5, you might have 8, but at least I've created some problem for you. Turdz instead goes, okay, I don't have to deal with that. I'm going to go in 1 because I don't have a problem attacking you from 8. I only have a problem attacking you from 2. And this way he gets to do that. Now, for all we know, Vid's about to play in 9 or something deranged because this is Vid, but yeah, still drawn to A8, 6, 2, and 7. Okay, Vid goes 5, the other kind of deranged option. This creates a threat in 2. If Turdz plays A5, 7, 3, and 2, then the combo chains are really, it goes all the way around. So the combo chains become really important, and you have to be very careful on that calculation. Very careful. There's a combo in 6. Not sure that's all that important, but it might be that important. Turdz has a combo back in 7, potentially. Complicated position. Turdz, of course, does not have to walk into that, but if he plays something like A8, 6, 2, and 2, well, 5, 4, A7, isn't safe in 3, but at least it locks in 2. And it created a threat in 2. So there's serious obligation to block 2 here. But how serious? How serious? Let's say you played A8, 6, 2 in 7. You just hold 3, 6, 9, 9 for 8 or 9. Anytime they play 8, you play 3, 6, 9, 9, and 9. Anytime they play 9, you block 8 with 3, 6, 9, 9. If they play in 2 with 5-4 A7, then you can play with Eden in 3. They get 1, but you get 2, and they run out of captures. I might not be calculating this right because you don't have last turn, so you can't quite keep the paired squares as much as my analysis is suggesting. But I think A8, 6-2, and 7 is still an interesting move. I think we're going to see something in 2. But I think 7 is very much worth considering as well. Like, most often people block 2 because there's a threat made in 2. But if you play 7 and grab 4, then it's fine if they get 2 and grab 1. So I'm drawn to 7 here. He goes 2, as was predicted. And I think as is reasonable. It's really hard for Vid here because you have no ups. So 5-4 A7 and 3, for instance, is met by Eden and 6, and you actually have no captures. You're just down 6-4 with no captures. And you just lose. I think you just lose there. Like, if you play 3-A, 4-9, and 7, you just get comboed. Like, what is there? What do you have there? I don't think you can have anything. You're down 6-4, and you need to set up too much combo potential that just isn't there. So you can't really go 3, which does suggest this move is better than my suggested move. In 7. Can Vid go 7? Kind of hard. At least you can keep 5-4 A7 in your hand, which covers things a bit. But a lot of endgames just don't work. Like, imagine something like 4-7, 7-9, and 7. And let's say Turdz plays 3-6, 9-9, and 8. You're down 6-4. And if you play, like... Oh, maybe you hold there. Alright, so 4-7, 7, and 7. What happens? I'm not the sharpest calculator today. If 3-6, 9-9, and 8, you're down 6-4. But you can play 3-A, 4-9, and 9, making it 5-5, and 5-4-A7 is fantastic in that endgame. Really covers stuff. But A5-7-3 is a plus and 6. Oh, that's so unlucky. Oh, can you really not get away with this? Okay, I think you might still hold. So 4-7, 7-9, and 7, 3-6, 9-9, and 8. What if you play 3-A, 4-9, and 6? You're down 6-4, but anywhere they go, you recapture 6, and you flip the card in 2 or 8. So you only lose if they can combo 3-A, 4-9, and I do not believe they can. So I think that holds. I think you hold to 3-6, 9-9, and 8. There's also Eden and 8, but you should tie the same way. I don't see why that wouldn't. There's A5, 7, 3, and 8, but then you can play... That doesn't capture anything. Then you can, or that only captures 5. Then you can play 3-A, 4-9, and 9. So I think you hold to 8. If they go in 3 with a 9 facing down, you're going to take it with 5-4-A7. They're going to double capture, or they can only single capture an 8. Yeah, you're fine there. If they play A5-7-3 in 3, you can again play 5. Ooh, no, you can't. 5-4-A7 and 6 now loses to Eden and 9. But if they play A5-7-3 and 3, you can play 3-A, 4-9 and 8. Does that work? No, they have 3-6, 9-9, and 9, and that combos through, but never flips 5. That's so unlucky. This hand just doesn't click at all. So maybe 7 loses to 3. God, Vid's hand sucked. No, it's still fine. 3, you play a 3-A, 4-9 in 6. And it's 5-5. They only have single captures in 8, and 5-4-A7 can capture back either. Is 4-7, 7-9, and 7 a tie? Am I crazy? Maybe 3699 lands in 6 at some uncomfortable moment and combos through. I might have screwed up the calculation of a line that included that. But anyways, I play 4779 and 7 and hope it works. Okay, I didn't think this one worked. Why did I not think this one worked? There's that same in 8, but I don't think that's what I was looking at. I think I was looking at 3699, because that flips 7 and 4, making it 7-3, and I didn't see the counterplay. Because when you're down 7-3, you can't play the tying ideas in 6 after 8. Yeah, I'm going to pop open the solver because I might be brain dead here. I don't think I'm seeing this clearly at all. But calculating 5 moves out is hard. Like, I'm not saying like I should be able to do this instantly or anything, but I do feel fuzzy and unconfident here. So we saw 7722A, 7749, 3A49. Notice that Vid did get both his 7s in the middle row, right? He did take both of those double 7s and put them where the 4779 might have potential play off them. He was very, I think he really identified the kind of themes of the hand and how to try to get them to work really well. But I don't think he did quite get it to work, but I also think this game was just a nightmare to play. His hand was terrible. So I'm expecting 3699 and 8. I don't see the problem with that. 4779 gonna sweep you in some endgame? No. So 772A was played in 4. Turdz played 9842 in 1. 7749 was played in 5. I would guess this move is losing. It is not losing. 7749 and 5 was a tie. God damn, good job, Vid. So after Turdz' move in 1, Vid had 8 ties. Looked scarier to me than that. What about after my move in 7? Did that give fewer ties than 8? It'll tell us in a moment as we wait for Turdz to, I think, just play a straightforward win. What am I missing? Probably something big, but so Turdz' move gave 8 ties. My move gave 13 ties. 15 ties. Oof. Alright, bad job, mate. Did you calculate the right move? Alright, just put out something confusing. Let's run that again. Anyway, so Turdz' move probably better than mine. Fine, whatever. Vid's move in 5, actually a hold, despite looking deranged. I thought Turdz had options in 2 or 7. He played 2, which I think give Vid 5 ties? Jesus Christ, I got this so wrong. And my move in 7 gave also 5 ties. This was way safer for Vid than I thought. Totally incorrect evaluation. So I thought 4779 and 7 tied, and it did not. It lost to 3699 and 9, which I did not check. But that is funny. That sets up A573 really well. All right, totally missed that. But there are 5 ties here, so really bad for me. 4779 and 3 tied? What? Why did I just discount this move? I did not consider that move. I only considered 54A7. And A573 there. And then the tie is 54A79. And you just have no captures. I missed how powerful there were sweepers available on the bottom row. So Vid played 7, and yeah, this loses to 36998, which presumably Turdz is going to play. Turdz does not play 36998. What is happening here? Man, Vid confusing everyone. So why does let's figure out why this doesn't win. I thought it was probably because 54A7 now has 6, right? I didn't want to flip 5. I was worried about that. And I think that should hold, right? because that's going to flip and lock in 5, 4, and 1, and it's going to take 2 as well. And 4, 7, 7, 9 sufficient to hold there. Yeah, Vid holds. God, what a lunatic. Great job by Vid, even if this was technically losing. I'm not sure why Turdz preferred Eden 8 to 3, 6, 9, 9, 8. He must have seen a ghost somewhere, which, as clearly I've been seeing. So Vid actually had 5 ties on move 5. I completely missed that 4, 7, 9, 9 could go in 3. But notably, 3, 8, 4, 9, and 3 is also a tie, which I missed how bad Turdz was going up. That just totally escaped my mind. So I missed all the ties in 3. Bad work there. He also has a tie in 6 on move 5. All right, well, Akiyama might play that, but I never am. There was a tie in the queue. I didn't get to looking at queues because I thought the tie is most likely to be in 3 or 7. And given that 2 cards in 3 tie, but nothing in 7 did. Huh. So the ties are 3, 6, 9. Yeah, bad analysis by me. Like I said, I thought I was being sloppy. And indeed I was. Curious game. Vid again, just so good at creating these weird complexities. I am really surprised the move in 5 wasn't losing. What a curiously good feel Vid has. And, yeah. I think Turdz will feel pretty bad about not winning an 8. But Vid does that to you. Looking for the records. This is round 1. Vid, 5, 5, Turdz. Game went 7, 7, 2, 8, 4. Somehow Vid was not losing early in this game. He was losing at one point on move 6. Which Turdz has been very good at winning for a while. He was a little sloppier than the other top players for a stretch on move 6 play specifically. That it wasn't quite in his kind of perfect calc always get right range, and I mean, everyone on record has made mistakes on move 6. No one has played perfectly every time. But his rate was a little higher, and then he got it lower. He got it to where the other people were and has had huge tournament success. This is a little worrisome for me to see from Turdz. A little worried about this one. That's it. We're on to a new game. But what a miracle from Vid. What impressive work. Alright, so Turdz's first turn, so I would check Vid's hand first. A in 3 directions, 9 in the other. I notice the 9 is also supported 7, 6, 4, 4, which is a pretty quick drop-off, but also to the left is A7, 4, 4, 3. That is pretty quick drop-off. Up, down, more consistent. Like A8, 6, 5 is better than either of those, and AA9, 7 is by far his best direction. So in general, one thing you can do is just you see the other person has that big a split side to side, you just go in 4 or 6. You just chuck a card there, and you try to figure out something that works, but the card matters a little less than the directionality. Because what you're really saying is, I'm going to make the game reliant on side-to-side power that you do not have. Probably not how I'd play it, though. Just an idea. So, given that A7, 4 drop-off, is there anything to do with that? If you start, say, 4, 8, 8, 6, and 1, the only capture from 2 is 5, 4, 7A, and you have a same wall in reply. But same wall is not a rule. Ignore that. I forgot. Yep, same wall is not a rule. I was trying to get A8, 5, 4 to line up there, but it cannot do so, so you do not have the combo back there. Alright, in that case, that's a harder card to punish. But I'd really like to play against Vid's left or right issues. So 6993 is the highest going right, and 4838 potentially as coverage. So if you played something like 7, 8, 9, 3, and 9, would that do anything? Your threat is to play 6. They don't have 8. They do have really nice play in 6, though, and you don't have good recaptures. Okay, scratch that idea. I'm just not going to come up with a good idea in time. But we're brainstorming here. If in doubt, maybe you just play like 4, 8, 8, 6, and 3. Just be like, I have a good recapture in 6. It's easy to recapture in 2. Most of my hand, except for 7, 3, 9, 8, is fine seeing this. And the 8 and the 6 facing out are decently high numbers, right? If you take the 6 with 5, 7, 8, 4, I have a plus wall. You cannot take it with A6, 4, 7. You can take it with 6, 9, 9, 3, but that gives up all your right power and is an easy capture for me at some point. Yeah, I might play 4, 8, 8, 6, and 3 as a kind of, I don't know what to do with this, but it seems okay. Sadly, if A6, 4, 7 lands in 6, you don't have the same wall, but you could hope your opponent forgets about that. And because that has a 7 facing out, you can always meet it with 7, 3, 9, 8, and 9. And you have an 8 and a 7 facing out to the left, and 6, 9, 9, 3 can take one of those, but not both. Alright, Turdz goes a different way. This is a little more directionally reasonable, I think. Well, maybe not. Because Vid's definitely happy going down. But Turdz's hand is clunky this time. This time, I think, despite Vid's hands having weaknesses, it's hard to see how Turdz's hand could play well against it. Note that 5, 4, A7, and 6 is not a combo. Also note, ooh, I missed this. Note that 6, 9, 9, 3, and 4 is comboed by 4, 8, 8, 6. And notice that 8, 4, A4 in 4 is comboed by 7, 3, 9, 8. So 5, 7, 8, 4 is the only non-comboable capture. Remember, no same wall. In 4. What about captures in 8? I'm not saying we should capture immediately, but we should know what our captures are. 5, 4, 7A is fine, and A6, 4, 7 is fine. I think I like Turdz starter more than what I was doing. I like going at Vid's left weakness. Yeah, maybe Turdz is in significantly better shape than I gave him credit for. What if Vid attacks this immediately, though? What if he plays 5, 7, 8, 4, and 8? Is that anything? Because if 4, 8, 8, 6 in 8, you have potential same in 5. There's the same wall in 9, so it's probably not that important. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing clean lines in any of these games. It's worth remembering this is level 9, so clean lines just don't happen very much, right? Numbers have trouble lining up. And that can incentivize you to play a more like captures and overpowers are fine because this sometimes would walk into things, but in level 9 it is just less likely to. Are any big corners appealing for Vid? Not to me. Yeah, I don't really like the look of anything. 6399 and 1, for instance, sets up 7398 to be a powerhouse. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to interact with this. I really want to force action. Not sure why I have that instinct here. It's like A6, 4, 7, and 8, what happens? 4, 8, 8, 6, and 4 is not a great recapture, as said, and neither is 7, 3, 9, 8. So Turdz really doesn't actually have recaptures in 4 that are that comfortable. So maybe taking an 8, has some oomph to it. All right, so A6, 4, 7, and 8. If Turdz goes 7, 3, 9, 8 in 4, then we kill him with 6, 9, 9, 3, and 1, and he's just given up his card that combos that. If 4, 8, 8, 6 in 4, then 8, 4, 8, 4, and 1 at least is promising. It's going to be scary for them to walk into, or 5, 7, 8, 4, and 1. You'll compare both, but having either makes that a pretty scary move. So then Turdz is likely to look at 9 he can go there safely, but then you can play 4 and just start locking stuff in. And he can't actually play there safely. What am I talking about? So maybe Turdz is hoping for something in 6? But there is not a setup in 6. I quite like a6, 4, 7, and 8. I'm not saying it's winning or anything. Like, moves like that, the solver almost always says they're like 4 moves that tie. But it's always like one of the ugly moves we've checked, or 2 of the ugly moves, and 2 moves that are just weird and random squares. But it's really hard to decide between ugly moves. I think a6, 4, 7, and 8 is quite promising. And if you look more specifically at moves in 9, a8, 5, 4 just gets taken. 7, 3, 9, 8 gets comboed by 5, 4, 7a potentially, which flips everything back. Now, I guess that concedes 4, 8, 8, 6, and 5, but having the combo in the air is pretty scary. Maybe you combo it with 5, 7, 8, 4, and then there's no combo back. It looks less secure, but it does flip everything. So that's really scary to play. He goes for it. Nice. Good move, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth. If 4, 8, 8, 6, and 9, that just seems like it's doing nothing. If 4, 8, 3, 8, that's a little scary because it can be comboed, but you do have the combo back. Maybe that's the best option. Maybe you have to play 4, 8, 3, 8, and 9. Given that somehow we've run out of time, he goes for it. Nice. I like that decision making from Turdz as well. I'm going to start inputting the game. Now, Vid has a lot of choices for how to attack this. I think the simple thing to do is just go 4. The complicated thing to do is take 6 and combo through. And specifically saying, if you combo back with 7, 3, 9, 8, and 3, then I combo back with 5, 7, 8, 4, and 2. Without really thinking much, and like this may just be an unambitious tendency in me, I kind of like just playing 4, setting up a threat in 5. So it gives up all left power. So this might be just not good. But I'm really drawn to 5, 4, 7a, and 4. This would be the first move I'd check in depth. Just setting up sames in 5, and if they block 5, you can then think about taking 6. But there is the question of, should you just take 6 immediately? And the answer might just be, of course. Like, what's the problem with taking 6? It combos. If they combo back, you combo back, and that does not set them up. Either of their cards that could land in 4, 6, 9, 9, 3 covers. I think the only question is if, like, counting it out, you happen just not to get there. So, like, 8, 4, 8, 4, and 6. It's currently 5, 5. You go up 7, 3. And say they go in, I don't even know, 2? I don't know. 6 looks good. This looks very good for Vid. I'm not sharp enough right now, I think, to try to be super precise on this, but what's a resource that could be had against Carbuncle at 6? I mean, I guess what you do, if you want to, if you're not like, my intuition is going to immediately lead me to good moves, what you want to do is learn from the moves you can calculate. So if you don't see ideas, you want to do the obvious thing. So the efficient way to calculate this would be say, okay, Carbuncle in 6. I know 7, 3, 9, 8, and 3 is a critical move. That combos through, flips everything back. Then 5, 7, 8, 4, and 2 flips everything back. I will be up 8 to 2. Are there any resources at all there? And there kind of just can't be. I think there just can't be. So, okay, they can't play 7, 3, 9, 8, and 3. What do they need to be able to do so that they threaten to play 7, 3, 9, 8, and 3? Well, one of two things. Either they need to block 2, and if they block 2, I have to block 3, I think. So if they can set something up in 2, that could be really dangerous, but I don't see how they can set up anything in 5, sorry, if they can set anything up in 5. Or they could play in something like 4, just do something useful there, and buy time to try to land with 7-3-9-8 later, because first turn is last turn, and that 7-3-9-8 could land at some critical moment. So for instance, 8-4, A4, and 6, maybe you have 4-8-8-6 in 4. If they play 6-9-9-3 and 1, you play A8-5-4 and 5. No, you can't. That flips 6. I was trying to leave 2 and 3 open because 7-3-9-8 kills in both those squares. But there are big threats in a bunch of squares. Maybe there's some tool there. Maybe there just isn't. This is hard to calculate out. Vid goes for it. Based on my calculation, I didn't see the problem with doing this. This has been a very good match for Vid. Can Turdz find a miracle? And if there is a miracle, where would it be? The reason I like 4-8-8-6 and 4 is because at least it grabs something. Like, you're down 7-3. If you make it 6-4 and they go, say, in 3, say they block 3, and then you go A8-5-4 and 1, maybe your 7-3-9-8 doesn't sweep shit. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of position where you start considering 1. Anything else? 7-3-9-8 and 3 definitely sucks. There's nothing in 2 that makes any kind of serious threat. If you go in 3 and don't combo, and just say, like, I have combo play against you going in 5, you don't have combo play against them going in 5. I guess you can combo against 5-7-8-4 and 5, but I don't think anything else. But also, they can block 5 with, like, 5-4-A7, and then, there's no combo through on the 4. So, I think I'd try something in 4, but I think this is dead. I think this is dead. I wonder where defensive resources were turn 3. Because I didn't look at the position that long, but I also thought 4-8-3-8 and 6 seems like the only try. I'm not sure I actually noticed it was comboed, though. And if you notice it's comboed, it's a lot harder to play. And, like, obviously, I probably should notice that it's comboed. And I don't know if I did at that point. I also might have noticed it at one point and then forgotten it by the time I was suggesting it. That happens quite often. You can't always be a good thinker. And also, level 9 is just really hard. Specifically on randoms, right? Non-randoms, the cards are going to click better. Not perfectly, but better. But random on level 9 can really go kind of wild. So A6-4-7-8, I thought was a very good move. And then I thought 4-8-3-8-3 was kind of the most hope there was. But this just loses, yeah. Or sorry, 4-8-3-8-9. And the winning move against it is, yeah, Carbuncle 6. My intuition of we should just keep the pressure conceded a tie. Now, the tie was hard to find. The tie was in 2 if you went in 4. But, yeah, Carbuncle's just winning. Sorry to spoil what's very likely the outcome. Vid does what Turdz does what I thought was most practical and goes in 4. Sort of trying to make the game a little leftwards, leaving open squares like 3 and 5 where you're hoping to land counterplay later. But there's multiple wins here for Vid. We'll probably get back to that in a moment. We'll see if he finds it. But going back, I think there's the real interesting question of what should Turdz have done on turn 3? Because this was definitely dangerous. And it looks like it says 2 moves tie. I have to let it finish running something else or it'll be confusing when it outputs it. But it looks like there were 2 ties on that position on move 3. All right, let's make some bets. Let's gamble on this. What might be a tie? God, I have no idea. All right, we'll find out. What? Wait. Wait up. That's the card that counteracts 3. Can Turdz just play 3? Wait. One sec. Let me... No, I shouldn't put this in the solver. Sorry. I was just clicking over to try to set it up there, but like, wait. What happens here? Does Turdz not just have 3 now? Man, 4 was a good practical play. What happened? God, this was such a good match from Vid till this point. What am I missing? Why does that not... Alright, what's the score? 8-2. That flips 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'd be up 6-4. Okay. And then 6993 loses because you have a plus in 2. Isn't this just a win for Turdz? I feel like I'm going insane. Let me check with the solver rather than trust my thinking. Yeah, it's just a win. Wow. I didn't ask it what the wins were here because I thought it would just tell me in a moment. But Vid's wins were in 3. Which was the square I initially mentioned here that I thought was a problem. What a curious game. I think Vid just played a fantastic match for about, I don't know, saying 6 moves doesn't sound like that many, but that's quite a bit. But yeah, it's just over. Miracle workers over here. What a strange game. Every time you watch Vid, something curious happens. Here, I thought he played really well, so of course he loses. Oh, that's the same. I was thinking that shouldn't flip. Same wall isn't a rule, but same is a rule. Obviously, Vid should have played 6993 and 5, because then it would be a 9-1, not an 8-2. Disgraceful. What a weird game. Yeah, so Vid had it. So I guess the last question here is, let's flip over to the solver for a sec. Where were the ties here? And place your bets. What square do you think, what squares? There are 2 different squares that tie, 2 different moves. Place your bets. There's a clear reason I was never going to get this, because I will spend a bunch of time in these positions checking 4, 6, and 9, and it was in none of those squares. The ties were in 2 and 3. Apparently this is a tie. For reasons. It does set up a threat in 5. You know, it puts something on the board, but that's very curious. No idea what makes that a tie. And the other tie is this, which I guess I'm technically a little more likely to find. I have no good way to interact, so I'm going to chuck a card in a faraway square. But normally I only do this if you have no good way to interact either. And I feel like blue has lots of plausible ways to interact. Maybe not quite as many as I'd immediately think, but it seems like there should be a fair few. Alright, very curious game. We will stop there. Very curious match. Hope you enjoyed it.